Hi, my name is Rakesh Rajani. I work with Tuaweza in East Africa, and I'm really glad to have the opportunity to speak with you. A lot of the time, I've heard people complain a lot about donors, that they require things, they make rules, they ask for reports, they work in a way that stops us from doing what we care about. A lot of the time I hear people say that I can't do what I really believe in because the donors won't support it, or the donors are making me do things that we shouldn't want to do. And I also hear the heads of organizations and senior people in organizations spending way too much time, 50%, 30%, sometimes even more than that, of their time simply fundraising and writing reports. Well, I think that's crazy. I think we should be spending our time doing what we believe is important instead of servicing donors. And in the last 20 years, I've been fortunate enough to be part of organizations where we've just done that. Where in fact, while we've been fully donor dependent, they have ended up fitting what is important to us rather than us fitting the donors. So I just want to share that story with you. I think the most important thing is to have a strategy. Is to have a strategy that is over the medium term, something like 3, 4, or 5 years. Probably more than 5 years is too long, less than 3 years is too little, but something in between. And that what I mean by a strategy is a document that articulates the key components of your thinking. It has in there a good situational analysis of what you need to do. It has in there a really clear theory of change that explains how we are going to get from here to there, and why we believe that this is the best way or the most effective way of doing so. It articulates the program components with sufficient detail so that one gets a sense of how you're going to go about doing things, but without giving the micro detail and planning everything 5 years in advance, because that's simply crazy. It maintains a level of flexibility in there of what you're going to do. It's very clear around how you're going to focus on results and deliver what is important, and how you're going to measure your effectiveness and learn from it as you go along. And finally, it gives a budget and says what is the money required in order to achieve this. And one more thing, the document would also explain how you're going to do your planning and reporting. Putting together such a document is not easy. It takes a lot of time and a lot of thinking. But I really think it's worth doing that. And what I mean is putting together one document instead of putting 5 or 10 different ones to fit each other. I think if an organization wants to have strategic coherence, if it really wants to make sure that what it does is focused and kind of adding up together to achieve what it wants, it shouldn't be writing 5, 10, 15 different proposals and doing things to fit the whims or the interests of a donor. Instead, we should have what we believe is really important. The purpose of the strategy document, first and foremost, is to articulate something that is important for ourselves. And that reflects what we believe is important, that serves as a guide for the organization, for the staff and the board in terms of what it is we're going to do. Many times we say results are imposed by donors and why are they doing that? But you know what? I think we should embrace results. Because we want to change the world, those of us who want to make a difference, particularly in the lives of poor people, should care about results more than anybody else. Caring about results is actually very important to us. A key part of that is being able to show and demonstrate that we are really serious about monitoring and learning. Now, one way of thinking about monitoring and evaluation is let's check our boxes. Are we delivering? And yes or no, and hopefully we are. We could do that, and there's a use to that, but I think there's a far more important vision of monitoring, which is better called learning. You know, however smart we are, however sharp we are, we're never going to get it right the first time. So it's not about having a really well done plan and then blindly or religiously implementing it. It's about having something in place where we have very good feedback loops, where we learn and are constantly iterating and making the adaptations that are needed. So we shouldn't pretend to any donor and tell them, yes, we have the answer, and now if we just slavishly implement this, this will happen. Instead, we should say, look, we've done our homework, we've done our research, we've done some clear thinking, we've looked at what works, what doesn't work, and we've listened to our hunches, and all that put together, we think this is what makes sense. But we don't know for sure, and we're not going to pretend that we know for sure. But the way we're going to give you an assurance, and the way we give our own constituencies and our own board an assurance, is by saying that, we have a good mechanism to learn, to get the information we need, and to make the adaptations that go by. A sign of an effective organization, of a learning organization, is one where what it set out to do at the beginning is not the same as what it is doing at the end, and it's also not the same as what it's doing in the middle. I think a really important question we should be asking ourselves all the time is not, do you have the answer, but rather, how are you learning, what are you learning, and how are you incorporating the lessons you've learned? How is what you do today different from what you did last year? If you're doing something, how do you know? What are the antennae and the mechanisms you have to know whether what you're doing is working, whether it's on the right path? And if it isn't, what are the adjustments that you're making? That's what's really important, and that's what we need to say to ourselves, and that's what we need to tell our donors, rather than kind of promising something that we can't deliver on. Because if we do that, what it ends up happening is that we will end up lying. So to me, when a donor says, what is your results framework? How are you going to evaluate? I say, brilliant, those are really key questions. And then we articulate this iterative process of learning, of rigorous learning, that helps us get over there. What we have at Traueza is one strategy, one plan, one budget, one report. The strategy document looks like this. It's something like 50 pages. And in here, all the key aspects are outlined. We use this to raise our money from the donors for the next 4 years. After having done this, if you read the detail of this, you will see that things are articulated clearly, but in broad strokes. It doesn't tell you at the activity level what it is we're going to do. Then, based on this, every year we produce one annual plan. The entire organization produces only one annual plan, which is a comprehensive document that shows everything that we do. Linked to that annual plan is an annual budget that says how we're going to spend the money. And this is what we share with our staff and with everybody else. We put it on our website, so anybody who wants to see it can see it. And yes, this is what we share with our donors, and we tell them, this year, this is how we're going to operationalize our strategy. And then at two moments, at the middle of the year and at the end of the year, we produce one set of reports. It's the same format for everybody. These are very good reports, high quality. They are not just PR pieces. They explain what we have done, they explain what we have not done, they explain the lessons we are learning, and explain what we're going to do differently next time as a result of what we're learning. This is very good information, and we say to the donors, we are going to give you all one set of reports that give you this information. And that's very useful to them because they see the final picture of everything that's going on rather than just their little bit. Importantly, the reports we make are first and foremost documents for ourselves. They are not meant for first and foremost for the donors, they're meant for ourselves. These are the same tools we use to document what we do, to give us the information we need in terms of whether our work is effective, which then get compiled and shared onto donors. When you do it this way, not only do you save hours and days and possibly months of your time, you actually put together something that is truer, that is more honest, and that is more coherent and more comprehensive and gives a fuller picture of what the organization does. And having freed up the time from having to fundraise and report for months to donors, you can actually spend that time better in ensuring that the quality of the work you do is better. So you can pay more attention to, are things working or not? Pay more attention to, are you using feedback well? Pay more attention to what is the meaning or what is the effect of this film or this booklet or this type of engagement. And what I would argue with the donors is, would you, when they start wanting to impose their own requirements, I say there's a trade-off here. Do you want me to spend 20 hours doing an extra report for you, which only 2 or 3 of you will read? Or would you rather have me spend that 20 hours doing something that's related to the core part of our business? And my sense is that when you push back to the donors, when you make a compelling and articulate case to the donors that this is what we believe in, this is why, and give them a kind of compelling and rigorous argument for why this way of doing business is really sensible, most of the time, most of the donors will line up and agree with your idea. will line up behind your idea and agree with it. And for a few who don't, it's probably better that they are not your donors. It's worth saying no to a donor. And what happens a lot of the time is that, in fact, that builds respect. There are a lot of times, or not a lot of times, there are a few times I've said no to a donor when I had to do that. And most of the time, they've actually come back, seen the argument we were making, and come back and offered us the money. So the irony is that when you say no to a donor, they actually want to support you more. So in conclusion, what have we learned over the last 20 years? That the secret sauce here is that it starts with you. Forget what the donors are doing. Focus on what it is we want to do. Articulate that in a clear strategic document where you have a clear theory of change and where all the important pieces have been articulated for yourself. This is something that we do. Once we have that, we go to our partners, we go to our constituencies, we go to our donors and say, guys, this is what we're about. And if you believe in this, we'd like you to support it. And in that document, not only have you said how you're going to make the change in the world that you want to make, you also articulate the terms of the relationship. You tell the donors, and you tell your board, by the way, that what we're going to do is we're going to give you one strategy, we're going to give you one set of annual plans and budgets and reports every year, and these will be comprehensive and for everyone. This is the format, these are the rules of the game, we agree on them, and then we stick to them. You get people to line up behind those ideas and support them, and if those who are not willing to play that ball and they're asking you to do something that is wildly different from what you believe in, it is better that you say no. It's better to do half your project well, half your vision realized well, rather than make compromises and do all kinds of things which will at the end leave you nowhere in terms of what you're impacting. And the most important thing around results is to say to people, yes, we also care about results. We want to have those results. But the results are framed in terms of a learning agenda. That you say that there are no guarantees. The best log frame in the world is just an illusion in terms of progress and success. What the best guarantee you have is that you have a good learning program. And you articulate why you're going to do the learning. You articulate that as a core part of your business rather than something you do at the end of the program period or 3 years. And you show how you're going to do it, and you make sure you put enough resources, human, intellectual, and financial resources behind that learning. And that package, in sum, is what you stand for. And if you have done a really good job, if you've done your homework and in the process of doing it, you've engaged and you've really been open to different ideas and critique, such that at the end you have a really terrific document. That puts you in a position of power. Because now when you're negotiating with donors, they realize that you're not holding a begging bowl. They realize that what you're holding in front of them is a compelling, powerful, strategic vision that they really want to be part of. So that this becomes a true partnership where they feel and understand that they are lucky to be part of this partnership. It changes the tables. It is a much more equal partnership, and in fact, it's a partnership where you as the organization wanting this change are in the driver's seat, and the donors are simply supporters of that process as we go along. I think it's not easy to achieve. I know it's hard, but in the last 20 years in the 3 different organizations that I've been part of, we've done it each time. And what it has meant is that my colleagues and I spend more than 95% of our time doing our work instead of pleasing donors. And as a result, I think our work is more effective. And most importantly, we wake up in the morning doing what we believe is important rather than somebody else's agenda. It's really possible. It's a lot of fun. So I hope more of us will be able to do that. Thank you.